What happens when the brightest flame of Hollywood slowly fades into silence? Jack Nicholson, a name that once shook cinema to its very core, now lives in the quiet shadows of age. He was not just an actor, he was a storm. With a single glance, he could terrify the world in The Shining, move it to tears in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, or twist it with dark laughter as the Joker in Batman. His voice, his eyes, his presence, every detail carved itself into the memory of generations. For decades, Nicholson was untouchable, a force of nature who redefined acting and stood among the immortals of Hollywood. Yet today, at 88, the applause has faded. The man who once commanded the world with fire now sits behind closed doors, frail, withdrawn, and surrounded by whispers of decline. Long lens photographs reveal not the devilish grin that defined an era, but a weary figure staring into the distance, as if searching for the pieces of himself that time has stolen. How does a legend once larger than life face the weight of solitude and the cruel erosion of memory? This is not just the story of Jack Nicholson. It is a mirror reflecting the fragility hidden beneath all greatness. Before Jack Nicholson became Hollywood's storm, his life began under a veil of shadows. Born in April 1937 in Neptune, New Jersey, he entered the world carrying a secret he was never meant to know. His mother, June, was only 17, too young, too fragile to raise him, and his father's identity was never revealed. To protect the family from scandal, Jack was raised by his grandparents, believing they were his parents. June, meanwhile, was introduced as his sister. For years, the young boy lived within this illusion, a fragile lie woven into the fabric of his childhood. At just 4 years old, his sister left to chase her dreams, and Jack never understood why. Her absence left a silent wound, not filled with anger, but with confusion, an emptiness too deep for a child to name. Decades later, in 1974, a reporter from Time magazine unearthed the truth. Jack was nearly 40, already a celebrated actor, when the revelation struck. The woman he thought was his sister was his mother. The parents he adored were his grandparents. He would later call it a blade across the soul, a revelation that scarred him forever. This wound, born of secrecy and abandonment, became the fire behind his eyes, the storm that transformed pain into unforgettable art. When Jack Nicholson left New Jersey at just 17, he carried nothing but hunger, ambition, and invisible scars. His first job in Hollywood was not on a film set, but as an office boy at Hanna-Barbera, running errands and delivering scripts while quietly promising himself he would one day belong on the other side of the camera. By 1958, he landed his first lead role in Cry Baby Killer, a low-budget B-movie quickly forgotten by history. Yet to Jack, it was proof that destiny had opened its first door. The years that followed were brutal: small roles, failed projects, even screenwriting just to survive. Still, he refused to quit. "I never had it easy in this town," he once said, "but I never stopped showing up." And then came 1969. With Easy Rider, Nicholson erupted onto the screen with raw, uncontainable energy. Critics called him magnetic, audiences couldn't look away. Overnight, he transformed from a struggling outsider into the actor every studio wanted. His grin, his volatility, his depth. Suddenly they were the voice of a generation yearning for rebellion. From that moment, his ascent was unstoppable. What had begun with shadows and struggle now blazed into the light of stardom, a fire Hollywood could never extinguish. For all his brilliance on screen, Jack Nicholson's private life was marked by turbulence and longing. In 1962, he married actress Sandra Knight, the only woman he ever officially called his wife. A year later, their daughter Jennifer was born, and for a fleeting moment Nicholson believed he had broken free from the shadows of his own fractured childhood. "For a while, I thought I could hold on to it," he later admitted. But the same restless fire that made him unstoppable in Hollywood soon tore apart his marriage. By 1968, it quietly ended, leaving Jennifer to grow up mostly without her father's steady presence. Fatherhood remained complicated. In 1970, actress Susan Anspach gave birth to Nicholson's son Caleb, but for years Jack refused to acknowledge him publicly. The silence repeated the very pattern of absence he had suffered as a boy. With singer Michelle Phillips, tragedy struck when they lost a child before birth, a grief endured in silence, never spoken of in headlines. His longest and most famous love was with Angelica Houston. For nearly 17 years, she was his anchor, the woman he later called the best of my life. But betrayal shattered their bond when Nicholson fathered children with model Rebecca Broussard. 6 children, 5 women, countless romances, yet no lasting home. Fame gave him everything, but love and family always slipped away. By the early 2000s, the storm that had once shaken Hollywood began to fade into silence. Jack Nicholson, the man who could electrify an audience with a single raised eyebrow, slowly withdrew from the stage. In 2013, he vanished entirely from film, without a farewell role, without applause. Whispers filled the void, rumors of memory loss, of dementia, of a once brilliant mind losing its edge. Friends spoke in hushed tones of a man who no longer recognized familiar faces, who struggled to follow conversations. For fans, it was unthinkable. The actor, who once commanded entire scripts word for word, now faltering over names and memories. In 2023, paparazzi photographs revealed him frail and weary on his balcony, hair unkempt, shoulders hunched, eyes distant. It was not age alone that shocked the world, it was the look of surrender. Nicholson's decline was not only of body and mind, but of spirit. The man who once lived surrounded by lovers, friends, and admirers now spent his days in near solitude. 6 children bore his name, yet none lived under his roof. Wealth and fame remained, but companionship did not. In the quiet of his vast Mulholland Drive mansion, the legend of Hollywood was left with only silence. Though Jack Nicholson now lives in seclusion, his legacy remains vast, luminous, and unshakable. 12 Academy Award nominations, 3 wins, and roles that redefined cinema, his work is etched into the soul of Hollywood. From Randall McMurphy's rebellion in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, to the unhinged terror of Jack Torrance in The Shining, to the manic brilliance of the Joker in Batman, his characters became more than performances. They became cultural touchstones, mirrors of pain, madness, and humanity itself. Beyond the screen, Nicholson built an empire, art collections worth millions, homes that span from Los Angeles to Hawaii, and a fortune estimated at nearly $400 million. Yet the paradox remains, while his material wealth is immense, the silence of his later years reveals how little fame and fortune can ease loneliness. And still, perhaps his greatest gift is not wealth or awards, but the reminder his life carries. Greatness is born not from perfection, but from the courage to transform wounds into art. Nicholson showed us that legends too are human, that even giants stumble, love and lose, and one day bow to time. If one of his performances ever touched your heart, share that memory. In doing so, his story continues, not in silence, but in the voices of those who will never forget him.